Hey everybody, I'm here. Better late than never. Hope you can hear me okay. Um, yeah, and I see there's already some people queuing up questions, which is great. And just need to know that you can hear me. So give me a thumbs up or something, and let me know. Um, Let me see if I can see what the chat says here. All right, there we go. Thanks, Bob. Great, Leonard. Great 442. Glad you're here. I see. Well, as I said before, that I had to go pick up my son at the airport. So he flew down to Miami this past weekend and surprised one of his friends for a wedding. So that was pretty cool. And just a can be a mess at the airport, and I wasn't sure what time I'd be back. And so got him. We're home. So anyway, Trevor, when do you plan on finishing Jade? Need more videos? My car, I'm putting it together next to nothing, just a shell basically, and it would help to have a video for reference. Well, I'm working on it a little bit at a time whenever I'm not doing something else. But I don't know. There's no real timeline on Jade. Um, so you just got to stay tuned and wait for the next one. But I'm sorry there's not more. But there's a lot of videos on Jade. In that playlist, there's a lot of stuff in there. So go back and watch that if that helps. Um, oh yeah. Okay. So you're from Utah. Cool. I've got some relatives who live out in Utah. So one day I'm going to get out there and visit. Let's see. Yep, all's well, Pontiac. Here for the first time. Good, glad, Bob. Let's see what else I got. Whoops. Let's see. It might be a good idea if you have time to talk about surface contamination, i.e., air tool exhaust, general condition of your compressor, etc. That's a good point, Brian. Um, at the body shop, we're very careful with keeping the air dry for spray painting and that sort of thing. We had a special air dryer set up, and then we had various pieces set up within the paint booth to keep it clean and dry. And it's really hard in a little home shop to do the same thing. I know in my paint booth that I have set up in the back, I have the old dryer and some sort of other filter that keeps contaminants out of the air. But another thing you need to look at with that in mind is, you can relieve moisture at the bottom of your tank if you don't know that, but you need to do that frequently. You can add little inline separators. But beyond that, if you're looking at, doing some paint work, you need to make sure you're not putting contaminants into the air. So like air tools will say add oil. Well, okay, if you add oil to the air tool, which I recommend in most cases, but if you put oil in, say, a 90 grinder and you're using it, it's going to put oil vapor in the air. So that's one of the things as hopefully it answers part of the question here, is keeping oils and that sort of thing out of the air. And that's why it's very important to wipe stuff down. And I even have, in my case, my paper towels separated. So I have normal paper towels that I use, like Bounty brand, for wipe downs and stuff like that. But if I'm doing other maintenance type stuff, I have the blue paper towels you get from like the auto parts store. And so anything that I have oil, I try to keep all that separated as much as you can. Again, it's tough in a little shop, but it's very important to keep that stuff or keep everything clean, because it'll come back and haunt you if you don't. Uh, let's see. Hope that helps, Brian. I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for or not. I got to scroll through these. Sean, glad you're here. Hey, Gary, glad you're here. Dave from New Jersey, good. Glad to see you. Or glad to hear you. Glad to see you. Glad to read your, you know what I mean. Francisco, glad you're here. Joe, Massachusetts, good. Oswaldo Colazo. That's different. Go USA. Mach 1s, I'm in. Heath, good. Glad you're here. Jack from New Jersey. North Jersey. Jack, are you the one with the 31? I think you are. 31 hot rod. Thumbs up from Gary. Good. Thanks for the update. Finishing body, some interior for. Sorry for poor sentences. LOL. Yeah. Well, between poor sentences and below average eyesight, you know, it's a struggle at points to read. Let's see. Okay, Leonard, Barry, I've asked this question before. Should you seal or prime first? Well, you're talking about two different products, and I'll try to break that down a little bit. Primer, like let's say you're doing bare metal, start with, you know, you go to epoxy, and then you build out from there. A sealer is more about getting everything, from my understanding of it, is more about making everything the same color prior to adding paint. So as an example, if I paint up a car or prime, you know, do the epoxy and then build high build primer and sand it down and end up with some light spots and dark spots, you can take sealer and cover all of that and get it to one neutral color. And so when you add your color on top of the sealer, it's supposed to help with uniformity. So I hope that helps, but that's my understanding of sealer and how it works. Hey, Rich, Mustang Connection 1. Glad you're here. Let's see. What else we got? Leonard, okay. Don't forget, oh, thank you, RC Guy Garage. Let's see. Sean, Barry, do you send the cars to the sandblaster? What do you think of dustless blasters? You know, we talked about this a little bit last week. I don't send stuff out to sandblasters. We used to do that at the body shop. We would have somebody come in and we'd set the vehicle on a rotisserie or something outside and let them blast it. But I just don't have, I haven't had anybody come to my home shop and do that sort of thing. Most of the time I'm stripping by hand or replacing so many panels, it's not really beneficial. Now, other areas of the country, we have a lot more rust that needs to be taken care of. But here in the South, most of the vehicles aren't that bad. So I don't typically use them. Now, dustless blasters, I've heard good things, you know, but I've not used them. So I can't give you a full endorsement of them. But from what I've seen and read, sounds like a good process. Loose cannon, well, better late than never. Hey, Dave, did you get a chance to go talk to Wally? Look at his 68. Tom from Milwaukee, good you're here. Let's see. I don't know how to say it. Earlight wave. I'm not sure. After watching the latest video with the primer, I'm questioning my process when I get bare metal. When I get bare sheet metal, I hit it with some cleaner than... Well, basically bare sheet metal, you need to, if it's no rust and everything, you need to hit it with epoxy. Just seal it up, make sure it's clean and dry, and put epoxy on it, and work your way out from there. Oh, Jack. Oh, sorry, Jack. Yeah, you got 66. Okay. Got you crisscrossed. Dave's here with the 30. He has a 31. Okay. Hey, I was close. Jack, I still want to come do a video on that Mustang, though. Let's see. Spray on 3 or 4 coats of self-etching primer. Well, you know, you can. I'm going to say go with epoxy because self-etch, as I pointed out in one of the primer in a video I did, it said right on the can, do not spray over self-etch. So that may come back and haunt you depending on what kind of products you're using. So always make sure that your products can work together. You don't want to cause more problems. Andrew, hey Barry, any advice for removing large areas of Bondo? I've heard a torch and putty knife, but haven't tried it. Not really a fan of torch and putty knife. We used to use something at the shop called we called it the Bondo Buster. It's a really big air-powered sander. I mean, it had like a 6 or 8 inch disc on it. What you might look at is getting a big handheld grinder. You know, you could use a 4.5 inch, but I'm talking the big ones. You know, they have the big discs that are like 8 inches. Get one of those and get the pad and a big aggressive disc, you know, like a 40, 50, 60 grit, whatever they come in, and just use that thing because you can just chew away at that body, you know, filler. You can pick up one of those, probably one of those tools, you know, cheap one at, you know, Harbor Freight, and you got electric, you know, air power. You may not have sufficient air power to use an air powered one, and they're going to be more expensive. But your electric one, you can just eat away at that thing, you know, wear a dust mask. And I don't have my bell yet. I forgot to get, I was wanting to get a bell so I could ring when I made a point, but anyway. Robert Adams got my cookies and milk and ready now. Good. Let me see where I'm at. I've got a lot of comments here to weed through. Let's see. Yeah. Wave, I recommend epoxy. I'm just telling you, again, look at your material and what you're going to use. And, you know, if you can get away with self-etch, that's one thing. But make sure your products are compatible. Dale from Columbus, Ohio, glad you're here. Dave, I have a question. What is your dream project to do for yourself? You know, I've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, and I think, you know, growing up in my dad's junkyard, we had so many cars, and you know, I hate to say it, but I love them all. I really do. I don't care if it's a Studebaker, Chevy, Ford, Mopar. I've had all kinds of cars. You know, I've had a 67 Plymouth Belvedere that I loved. My dad had a 69 Mach 1 that I loved. At the junkyard, we had over 100 Studebakers in the yard, so I'm familiar with those. But I think if I was to build one for myself, I would probably build a Resto Mod 69 Mach 1. And I don't care if it's original or not. You know, I missed out on one last year. I could have bought basically a top half of a 69 sports roof 6-cylinder car. That would have been the ideal candidate, but I just didn't get it timed out right and get the thing. But to me, I would rather start with a sports roof plain Jane car instead of a real Mach 1. I wouldn't want to do it to a real Mach 1. I'd rather do one that's just a sports roof and just build it the way I want. You know, put in rack and pinion steering and, you know, upgraded suspension and all the cool stuff and make a real hot rod out of it. But that would be probably the top of my list. But other than that, I'd like to have, you know, a dream car, 53 Studebaker Starlight Coupe. I love the looks of those cars. You know, you see them, they run them at the salt flats. I even love the looks of, and this may sound crazy, but a 59 or 60 Studebaker Lark 2-door hardtop. I don't know why. A little box car, but you can get them with a V8. Some of them had 4 speeds just because. I mean, you could order them however you wanted, but I don't know. I think it'd just be cool to have one of those. But there's a lot of cars that I would love to have, but I just don't have time. So I don't know when I'll ever get to that point. Yep, Sean, let's see. GM guy car, GM3 car guy. GM guy 3 car. I'm going to get that right. Do you drill out your purple gun or buy? Oh, did I drill it? No, I didn't draw out anything on that because I haven't. You know, I could. I just haven't done anything else with that epoxy or that Evercoat stuff. And I may do it at something at a later date. And you know, I recognize I made some mistakes with that process. You know, I owned up to that, but I have not messed with that purple gun and drilled it up. But I should. Hey, Fairway or far away. I'm not sure which way to say. 1703. What parts of a floor pan do you spot weld, and what parts completely welded? I have to cut out the spot weld due to rust. Well, you know, the only parts that I spot weld are what would be the factory spot welds. So the factory spot welds on a floor pan are going to be on your perimeter, up against the inner rocker. Everywhere else, if you look at the Mystique Mustang, I did a video on that specifically, and I do an overlap weld on the rest of the pan all the way around. And I've had people ask me why. Well, it's too difficult to try to do a butt weld, in my opinion, because you're pressing down on the pan, you know, end up with some problems. But whenever I put the two together, I press down on the pan and I'll edge weld all the way around, you know, and up against the tranny tunnel. And then on the backside, on the underside of the car, I'll either trim off as much as I can, and maybe hammer and dolly it, different things like that, blend it in as much as I can, and then treat it with, you could spray epoxy, and then seam seal it. And that way it kind of encapsulates that area and protects it. But otherwise, spot welds on the, really only spot welds you can get away with, in my opinion, are on the rocker, because you got to consider the inner structure was one piece to start with, and I try to go back to that. I don't want to have spot welds representing what would have been a solid piece of metal, just the way it's designed. Okay, Dave, yeah. You need to go check out Wally's Ride. If he wants you to let you stop by, it'd be great. Where are we at? Go Fast. Do you still like the Black Widow gun? I do. I'm looking forward to spraying more with that gun. You know, as I said before, the other kit that I had was a very cheap generic kit. It came with like 3 guns for $100 or something. But the feel of that Black Widow, and in fact, I don't know if somebody has looked it up or tried to help, you know, but this thing, I just like the way it feels and the way it handles. And I know it's a copy. It's a copy of somebody, and I don't know if it's Satagun or Iwata. I don't know, but I like it. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay, Jack. Good. Yeah, Dave. Well, you know, sorry. I don't know what either one of you look like, so I can only confuse you by the fact that I know you both live in Jersey. That's all I got to go by. Go Fast. I bought these are the HVLP guns. So I bought 2 of them. One is for, you know, primers, and the other one is for top coats. And the difference is the size of the tips, and then also I believe it has to do with the airflow, because it breaks it down on the gun with more information. So I have one of each. Got them on sale at Harbor Freight. Why not? Loose cannon. I recently got back from visiting my friend in McClenny, Florida. We stopped down at the junkyard by Ocala. Just kept myself in, just asking myself, why is this here? So different from the yards up here in Wisconsin. I guess Wisconsin. I'm going to guess Wisconsin. Yeah, I don't have an answer. I haven't been to that junkyard, but it sounds like somewhere maybe I should go to. GM 8-inch Mudhog DA. What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That would be a great. That's what I'm trying to say to Andrew. He references the 8-inch Mudhog DA, and that would work. Heath, Barry, have you ever been to Carlisle, PA for the swap meet? Going from first time this year for my 68. I have not. You know, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and never made it to Carlisle. I've been to Harrisburg and, you know, Hershey Park and, you know, whatever, all those different places out there. But for some reason, I never went to Carlisle. At least not that I remember. Not for like the Mustang stuff. I may have been out there in that area for a Studebaker show years and years ago in the late 70s with my dad and brother, but otherwise I have not been there. Dave, I removed a lot of Bondo from my 31 with Eastwood SCT tool. Works great, works well. Okay, I'm not familiar with it, but I'll take your word for it. Brian Bergman, I love 63 to 67 Ramblers. Yeah. You know, the oddball cars, just to me, some of them are really, I just love them. You know, they're unique, and there's something magical about these, you know, unique cars that you just don't see every day. Let's see. Dave, we are way too much alike. I can copy exactly what you said, even the Studebaker, but my dream project is a 68 Fastback. I always love the Lark too. Yeah. I don't know why, man. Just that Lark is just, I just love that little boxy, you know, and ones that are painted. You ever seen the split line where, you know, the chrome running down the body line and they'll paint one half, you know, completely opposite colors? I don't know why, you know, and there was one for sale out in California, and it was man, it was I'm on a Studebaker page on Facebook, and it was a 60 Lark coupe, you know, 2-door hardtop, but it was painted like kind of a battleship gray, had 5-spoke wheels on it, and it was a V8 car, and they were trying to sell this thing for like $6,800, and I was really tempted to buy it just to have it because it's just a really sharp little car, but I'm sure they sold it by now. Barry, I'm looking for a roof panel for 68 Mustang Coupe. Yeah, I don't have an easy answer for you on that. I know that there are some roof panels available, but I don't know for sure that they're available for the coupe. You're gonna have to find somebody out there has a totaled Mustang that they're cutting up and just kind of find it. I have a roof for a 66. I saved the roof panel off that 66. Oh, hey, my compressor just kicked on. Hold on. Anyway, I have a roof that I saved from a 66, but they're different. So just gonna have to do some searching. Sorry. Grease Rookie, Andrew. I heat my garage with a heater that burns K1 kerosene, but I've heard this can throw oil in the air. Yeah, I I would avoid that. You know, if you're gonna be, I mean, for what you're doing right now, stripping things down and that sort of process, it may not be that bad. But if you're gonna be spraying, you know, some epoxy later on, you got to find another way because it just you're running the risk of having stuff in the air, and it could come back to haunt you. So I've used a kerosene heater myself, but I have one of the KeroSun uprights. You know, it just generates heat. Don't have one that forces, so just be careful with that. Robert Adams, Harbor Freight has their own in-house engineers designing those guns and some of their other new products. Okay. Well, typically, you know, I mentioned it, copy because, you know, that's always been kind of the way it worked. Somebody would develop a tool, somebody else would copy it. And, you know, air guns, I mean, how much can you really, you know, you talk about an air gun that's, you know, $1,000 versus 150. What's really different? I mean, what's really different? You know, and I don't want to go into details because I don't know, but I'm just saying, can it be that much of a difference? Okay. Oh, Dave, Jack and I own a business together. Clients are always confusing us. Well, I could see that. Have you ever tried Corseal rust converting metal primer? If so, is it a good product to use? I have not tried that, so I cannot say whether it is or not. Sorry. Oh, loose cannon. I was just referring to the fact that the cars down there didn't have any rust. Yeah. That's a big advantage, you know. Like I said, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I understand the Rust Belt. I understand all that, and you know, I've had when I did my GMC conversion, when I cut up the 2006 Chevy truck, I had so many people wanting to buy that cab off of me, even though it was damaged, and I never thought about it because I'm thinking it's just a wrecked cab. But then I had people saying they would have gladly put that on their northern truck just to save it. And I tend to forget about the fact that, you know, things rust horribly up north. Country Boy checking in from South Louisiana. Glad you're here. Let's see, Robert Adams. Cars here in Texas don't have rust, but the interior and drivetrain get ruined because of the heat. Yeah, but that's easily. I'd rather do it, you know, replace the interior than have to do sheet, you know, replace all the sheet metal like that. Canadian Marauder just checking in. Glad you're here. Leonard, what is the thickness of the filler when you put it on? That's a good question. Most of it, I can't say exactly how thick it is, but I'd venture that some spots at the thickest maybe 1/8 of an inch. You know, because I don't pile it up like some people. I try to get as close as I can, and there may be certain areas where you don't have a choice and you have to go a little bit over. But I'd say at the highest, you know, 1/8 of an inch is probably the highest I go. So Hey Nick, glad you're here. Um, I put an offer, oh, Dave, I put an offer on a Mint Lark a couple years ago at an auction. Yeah. Yeah, that gray one out in California, I'm telling you, I should have bought, if I had a place to put it, I don't have any place to put it. So, two in red and black. Yep. Brian, oh man, compressor kicking on. Yeah, there's no leak-free system. You're right. You're right. And, that's the thing. I haven't really talked about the compressor. This is an old compressor, and I bought it from my buddy 20 years ago, and it needed a new motor. The electric motor died. So I bought it, fixed it up, kept it running. I'm surprised it's not dead yet. I mean, really, I've been waiting for it to die so I could buy a new one. But all of my lines in the shop, you can see right there, running across the ceiling. It's all PVC. And you get people that are saying, hey, don't use PVC. That's Schedule 40, PVC. And people go back and forth, debate on PVC. And I'm only bringing this up because of that debate. People talk about the dangers of it, and it is dangerous. I actually had a big 3/4 inch line blow apart at the body shop, and we had a huge compressor outside the shop. But the problem was the guy who put the lines in had put them in 15 or 20 years ago, and when that line blew apart, it didn't crack, it didn't explode the line, it was the joint that separated. And when I looked at it, when I found the pieces, he had not put on enough glue. So it was the way it was put together. Now, I'm not saying go out and put PVC in your shop. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I have PVC in my shop, and I don't have any issues with it. This stuff's been in here since 96, 24 years. Anyway, just a observation. Robert, yep, most of the tools are all iterations of another tool. Yeah, yep. Why reinvent the wheel? Exactly. Leonard, hey, whoops, this thing keeps scrolling up. I have to kind of pull back. Leonard, hey, the guy that's looking for the roof panel, try Dan's Auto Salvage in Kingman, Arizona. So there you go. 68 roof, Dawn's Auto Salvage, Kingman, Arizona. Recommendation from Leonard. Dave, any possibility of doing a coupe to fastback conversion on the channel in the future? Possibility? Yes. When? I don't know. I've been asked that before. I would love to do a conversion, but I want to do it with the kit. I don't want to take a roof from one car and merge it onto another. I want to do the whole kit. We get the side panels, quarters, all the structure that's supposed to be there. So yeah, I want to do one someday, but I don't know when. Let's see. Gary, speaking of compressors, what's a good setup for someone looking to do a little bit of everything? CFM, horsepower, and tank size. Well, I can tell you this, the tank I have over there in the corner, that's your standard 60-gallon tank. I don't know what the CFM is, but any 60-gallon tank that's 240 volt is going to probably do the job. Everything I run here in the shop, and I mean every air tool, everything, as long as it's just me, I don't have any issues. Now it'll kick on and it'll run, but this thing is old, so it's not as efficient as a new one. So that 60-gallon, you can get one from Lowe's, Harbor Freight. I wouldn't get Lowe's or Tractor Supply or various brands. This was a Black Max from Northern. So I'd recommend one of those. For me, I'm probably going to upgrade maybe when I get the new one someday. But as it is, I can't justify replacing this right now. So, have you ever tried a turbine system? I have not. So, let's see. Sean, hey Barry, after welding new frame rails on my 67 Mustang, how should I protect the welds? Only paint or something else as well? Well, typically what I'm going to do on that is I'm going to grind down, the hump of the weld just to smooth it out a little bit, or make it a transition. And then, you can spray, you can put epoxy on top as one element. And then, depending on how good the welds are and stuff like that, make sure they're smooth and all that sort of thing. But you can spray epoxy. And again, I mentioned earlier about self-etch. You can put self-etch, but just make sure that your next product is compatible with the self-etch. So just know that. But that's the route I would probably take. Robert, greetings from Australia, the land down under. Great. I don't know if you saw the video I did with Greg. I shared a viewers project video with Greg. So enjoying your channel and looking forward to the next Brooklyn Pony episode. Yep, I'm working on it. I'm getting there. I have some things in mind that I want to get moving on that. So once upon a time, just to say, I sprayed my motorcycle with HPLP gun that cost me 10 pounds. I'm going to say pounds. And it did a great job. Primer, silver candy red, and lacquer. Hello from UK. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's granted, if you want to be a professional and do it as a living, spend the money on those big time guns. If it makes you a better painter, great. I just don't. I'm not going to spend $1,000 on a spray gun. I just can't do it. Can't justify it. Ray, do you have an opinion about using a turbine paint system to provide dry, clean air? No, I don't. I have not looked into the turbine system. It's probably a good idea. I don't know what the cost value is. I know it, like I said, at the body shop, we had our big compressor, and then we had the dryer that was, set in line. So we use that dryer. Yeah, you don't need to spend a lot on spray guns. Okay, Matt. Hey, Barry, I've been watching your videos for many years. Have you ever considered doing follow-up videos for the Mustangs you worked on, like Mystique or the 65 you replaced the whole floor? Actually, I have considered that. And not to be, I don't know, blunt. I don't know what the words I want to use, but I'm kind of waiting on the owners to take care of those cars. The light blue Mustang belongs to a relative. And I think I've talked about this before. That was actually a car that my dad had for a long time that he sold to my cousin who was going to do a father-son project. And then I ended up with it because they couldn't handle it. And so they have put that car, they've got the engine and transmission in it, and they're doing some other things. And I prod him all the time, or when I can, say, hey, when's this car going to be done? But yeah, I would like to do that. And Mystique, he's been working on it. I know he has some health issues that is slowing him down. So I'm not giving him any complaints at all. But I know he's had some health issues that have slowed him down. So he's working on it. So at some point I would like to do that. Go back and show these cars all together. Let's see. Where are we at? You're welcome, Sean. Let's see, Paul, after pulling the floor pans in Jade and Mystique, do you use body filler on the underside? I do not. I mean, I've seen people do that, and they can. It's not going to really hurt anything. I know people do it, but in a way, like if I'm going to do a car, I'd rather people see that it's welded together than to try to hide it. I don't know. I kind of feel uncomfortable saying this is, smooth and pretty. I'd rather actually be a little bit noticeable so that I can point that out and say, these have been replaced. It's just me. Now, I don't see anything wrong with doing that to make your car look good, but I've seen in the past where people have done it in a way to hide the work that they've done. And just, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way I look at it. Nick, got to spend a weekend with Danny Coker, John Force, and Aaron Kaufman. Shared your channel. Sweet. Thanks, Nick. I know we talked about that, trying to do a live from the auto show, but just couldn't work it out. It would be fun to do that sometime, though. Once upon a time, just what I said to a friend earlier. Okay. Let's see. Country boy, what's the lowest temp you spray epoxy? Well, according to, I think on the can, it said 70 degrees. So I go by what the product line says. I don't want to go, against them because there's a reason they say 70 degrees. But that's what I know. That's what that one says. Um, let's see. Ramon from California. Hey, good, glad you're here. Uh, oh, the bike. Talking about the. I don't know what you're. Sorry, I don't know what you're pointing at. Once upon a time, but yeah, give a thumbs up. Help me out here. Make us popular. Let's see, Leonard. What's your take on taking out body seams? Not a fan. Not a fan. I I think because I grew up around these cars and so many of them, and I just so involved with these cars that I love the way they looked. You know, when they were new or how they were designed. And so when I see people eliminating a seam, I question the car because I'm wondering why are they doing that. As an example, I did that '68 Camaro years ago that I put quarters on and tail panel and all kinds of stuff. And when I got that car, and this is what I was talking about where people hide stuff, I got that car and all that stuff was already done. You know, it was, and the guy had pointed, and I looked it over, and at the time, I wasn't super familiar with the Camaros, but I noticed the seams, you know, showed up on the back where the deck filler panel and the quarters come together. And I really didn't, maybe I should have dug a little harder on that car. But whenever I got it home and started working on it, you know, a year or so later, whatever it was, I started sanding on it and I realized that there was no seam. They had cut the seam in with, it was all Bondo, and they had cut it in with a cutter, you know, a Ziz wheel, whatever, and created a fake seam. And then I started digging and I realized this whole thing was junk. And that's when I cut that car all apart and started over. But I understand people wanting to do that and get rid of the lines and different things like that. I like to see the car the way it was made. I don't know, just me. There's nothing, I guess, overall wrong with it, but I just like seeing the lines. I like seeing the transitions. Like, I don't know, it's just the way I am. James, having trouble fitting upper trunk corners, '68 fastback, modified trunk lid or quarter. All parts are Dynacorn. Quarters already welded in. You know, that's a good question, James. Without being able to see exactly what you've got going on, I can't give you a definite answer. It's going to be. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. Whether the trunk lid's too big or the quarters. You know, to me, if you're looking at that, you're probably if it's. And I hate to say this, but it's probably easier to modify the deck lid because you can cut it down and re-weld the edges and blend it in. But you got to remember the lines. You know, if you're looking straight up that line, you got to figure out. You know, if you cut off the front corner, is it going to come up and, you know, joggle over and not look right? So that's a tough one to give you some advice on, especially not being able to see it. I wish there was a way I could see some of this stuff whenever I'm on here. Staho Dad. When installing Dynacorn torque boxes on early Mustangs, is it best to use a 220 volt MIG welder? I guess it doesn't have to work all hard. I have a 120. No, you can. 120 is fine. I mean, that's everything I put in here. Everything I've done in my shop is a 120, and everything, even welding in all the frame stuff on the Brooklyn Pony. 120 will handle it. You just have to upgrade your wire. Go to a 30.30, 30 thousandths instead of the 023 or 025, and just turn up the heat and let it flow. But yeah, you don't need to spend money on a bigger unit unless you have to. Like, you know, honey, I need this. Terry, hey Terry, glad you're here. Yeah, Leonard, yep, that was a mess. Once upon a time, in my pic, you can't see Dave. I'm sorry, in my pic, you can't see Dave from England, by the way. Hope you're all well. Okay. And I don't know, I can't see your pic. Anything that shows up on my side panel, you know, the little pictures are about the size of a eraser pencil. So it's really hard to see anything. Loose cannon. Sounds like that Camaro is exactly like my '69 sports roof. Roof's the only thing that's good. Yeah, and even that roof had issues where it had dents in it. Yeah, that Camaro. I don't know if you go back and look at those videos, and that was earlier when I was doing my videos, and I wasn't nearly as detailed and over the top that I am now. But I was very angry with that car because I went to do some work to it, and I was noticing that the floor pans were basically tack welded in, and I literally stomped on them with my foot and drove those pans out of the car. I was so mad. I couldn't believe somebody would do that, especially on a Camaro, because the floor pans and the inner structure brace support the front subframe, which bolts directly to it right underneath the seat. And all that stuff basically came apart with me kicking at it. And had that car ever been in a collision, that frame would have rotated and would have just went right up through the driver and the passenger if they were in that, you know. So I was very upset with that, and so I cut that car all apart and started over. Once upon a time, 1:13 a.m. here. Well, you're up late. Glad you're here though. I don't know how to, I've got viewers from around the world. Now, obviously, I've got the bulk in the United States and Canada. I have a lot from Canada. But it turns out I have a lot of viewers from Australia. And as I'm finding out, New Zealand. I think I had one from Argentina here last week. And, of course, Europe. So, I don't know how to coordinate it to make the times any better for somebody to participate in the live feed. But that's the way it is. Heath, what do you like to use for undercoating? Well, typically, I would use, like, depending on the car and product or project, I'm pretty comfortable with like the 3M sprayable undercoating stuff. But again, I live in Georgia, so we don't have the salt and all that junk. And that 3M undercoating, it does a good job, and they sell various other companies make that. So like, I know even Harbor Freight sells that stuff. So I'm okay with that. Now, depending on where you live, you may want to get something more strong. I know that I'm going to be putting on Brooklyn Pony, the lizard skin. So that's going to go all over that car, underneath, inside. And so I have not used the lizard skin here at the shop. I think we used it at the body shop. And so you may want to look at other products like that. And then there's the other idea where you can go kind of on the maybe extreme side of it and use some truck bed coating. And they sell those kits where you can actually brush in, undercoating on the bed of your truck, like a bed liner. I thought, why not use that? It's the same, on top of the car, on the underside, and pretty tough stuff. So I've used it on my dune buggy. I did the floor pans, and I coated those pans, and then I threw the sand in with it, so it had some texture, so getting in and out was easier. So that might be another option you could look at. Let's see. Trevor, could the fastback guy or gal send you a picture or video email? Yeah, that's a good point. If you want to send, with the fastback question with the trunk lid, if you want to send me a picture, send it to joedaddysgarage@gmail.com, or find me on the Facebook page. I've got my own Joe Daddy's Facebook page, and I communicate with people all the time on that page. And they send me pictures, and we go back and forth. So yeah, send me some pictures, and we'll see if we can't figure something out for you. Jack, finishing my shop. What do you use for lighting? Well, see that? Those used to be 8-foot fluorescents. And then I bought a kit from Amazon. And basically, it's not much of a kit. It's just a matter of modifying what you have. All of these are LED lights up here. And then I also have installed, and I did a video on this. I actually have more of these. This is the Braun light from Harbor Freight. And there's 2 of those right overhead right here. So I like the LED stuff. And to do the conversion on the fluorescents, if you don't buy one directly, like these were what do they call, the T something, where they got the single post on the end, the spring post. I bought that kit and changed out. I have 6 fixtures in the mounted to the rafters, and they're all double bulb, and I converted all those to the LED style. So they have them on Amazon. I don't have them listed on my page, but I probably should. And I have a lot of products listed on my Amazon page, but yeah, I probably should list those lights because they're really nice. And they also, as people will say, I've heard complaints that using LED lights affects their radio. I haven't had any issues with these, and I don't remember exactly what brand they were, but I could probably find out. But haven't had any issues with it affecting my stereo in the shop, so I'd go with the LEDs. Eric, thanks for the vids. Just replaced the B pillar on the passenger side of my 65 coupe with my dad. Following your Brooklyn Pony video, driver's side coming next week, then quarters. Cool. I like to hear that. Brian, what happened to metal etch acid to straight primer? Has epoxy replaced it? You know, I'm going to say epoxy has been like the kind of pushed by the industry for quite a while now. I have not tried to, use the acid etch like you're saying, and use anything else, because epoxy is designed to seal up the metal, to make it stop rusting or prevent it from rusting. So that's just been kind of the norm anymore. Let me see here. Sean, the way you realign old Mustang body lines is awesome. Any recommendations on modifying a 67 Mustang rear quarter panel skin without holes to be used with the original panel? Let me see that. Let me read that again. Any recommendations on modifying a 67 Mustang rear quarter panel skin without holes to be used with the original panel? Well, there's another kind of a trick you can do, and it depends on the quality of the panels, but I've seen it done. I've done it before on a Chevelle. Like, instead of cutting off the whole quarter panel where it overlaps the B pillar and all that, you can leave, an inch and a half, whatever is good material, if it's good, and just kind of cut, and then bring your new quarter in, and you're going to have to be careful and make a butt weld. You're not going to overlap that. But if the quarter is a good quality quarter and it matches the original shape, that's one thing. If it doesn't, you got a whole nother can of worms. But I've done it before where I've saved the B pillar finish, the finish edge with the factory spot welds, and kind of come in and just butted them together and welded them. And same way at the top, rather than cut up into above the body line, I've come below it and done a weld there, and that's another way you can do it. Modify the panel without the holes, or by. Now, when you're saying holes, maybe I'm confused by your question. Are you talking about the vent holes? 16-quarter without holes? Are you talking about the trim holes on the side? I'm confused. Maybe I'm answering your question wrong. Leonard, how did that 65 Galaxy you did turn out? I don't know, because I left the shop, the body shop, before that was finished, and I don't know. I'm sure it turned out nice. It was super nice before I left, and it got finished, but I have not seen it, so I can't answer that very well. Heath, Massachusetts. Glad you're here. Okay, we got Keith. Which would you buy? A 67 Mustang 6-cylinder with a decent body, or a numbers matching V8 with a body frame that needs work? Well, it depends what your goal is. You can modify a 6-cylinder car into a V8 car and kind of do whatever you want to it, really, and nobody's going to care, because the big money ticket cars are going to have V8s and automatics or 4-speeds or whatever. 6-cylinder car, yeah, there's a group of people that really desire those, but if you're going to modify one, why not start with a solid car and go from there? But it depends on what your goals are, because I can't say specifically. There's a balance there, and depending on how bad the V8 car is, as far as sheet metal or work like that may come into play too, because if you're only have to replace a quarter or a fender or something like that, then that's also debatable. So I'm not sure that helps, but Robert, lizard skin is very good, undercoating and heat barrier. Yeah, that's the plan, because that Brooklyn pony is going to Brooklyn. It's going back to Brooklyn, so trying to take care of that. Once upon a time, I used to be a truck builder, coach builder, and then went into welding, but I'm okay now. I'm just stuck in a wheelchair. Really enjoy the build videos. Good job, Barry. Okay, all right. Thank you. Sorry to hear that you're in a wheelchair. I'm not. That's. I'm just sorry. I don't know. I don't know what happened to you, but I'm glad you're here and watching the videos. Well, Trevor. Okay, yeah, we'll see. James, using U-POL Raptor liner for undercoating. Okay, that sounds like a good choice. Robert, who uses the radio anymore? Well, I do. Just because I have some good radio stations here in Atlanta that I can listen to. But you know what? What's funny about that? Yeah, I say funny. People have asked me before. We talked to you about making videos and the work involved and the time involved and what it really takes. And one of the things, unfortunately, is to make a video and have it monetized on YouTube. I can't have regular music playing in the background. I can't have anything. So I love to have the radio on while I'm working on something, but anymore, I hardly ever turn my stereo on because I'm filming this or filming that and creating segments, and I'm now getting used to not having anything on while I'm trying to film stuff because YouTube doesn't like it. And I've had a couple videos where I inadvertently had music playing, and what happens is if I monetize that video, it doesn't matter what I do as a creator. It doesn't matter what I do on that video. If there's music playing in the background, the artist gets credit for my video, and that's irritating. Now, I understand the premise, but it's just kind of irritating. There should be some sort of a split or something. I don't know, but I've just gotten used to not having the radio on at all. Oh, the vents. Okay, Sean. I was confused. I'm going to say, depending on what you have, I don't know what the quality of your panel is. You're probably better off just getting a whole new panel, honestly. Because by the time you start to cut out the holes, there's an inner structure there that supports, your inserts and everything. I think I'd rather just get a, oh, I'm getting text messages from live chat. So anyway, you're probably better off getting a new quarter. Tony, I recently painted and cleared my 65 Mustang. Now about a year later, it seems the clear has gone foggy. Yeah, that's not good. Foggy. Well, without knowing the type of clear you used or the environment that it was in, I really don't have an answer for you on that. I'm sorry. Clear is kind of like, if you're going to buy equipment, you spend typically, depending on what your job is, you will try to get the better brand or better product. There are some clears out there that are very cheap, and they're designed to be like get rid of it kind of clears. You make it look pretty and you sell it, but it's very appealing to buy a lesser quality clear. Now I don't know what you bought. I can't say that, but it's possible that the clear wasn't a high grade, so it may be just that it's only going to last about a year. So just my opinion. Bob Shoemaker T8. Okay. I don't know what that implies. Sorry. I don't know if that was something else going on. Once upon a time, slip disc in my neck. Had it removed, but oh, sorry, man. Man, that doesn't sound pleasant at all. I'm sorry. I'm glad you're still here. Sounds like you're still functioning, so that's a good thing. But ouch. Robert, I have Bluetooth headphones, blocks noise and makes noise. I want to hear. Yeah, that's great, but I'm with you. But the problem, I can, if I have my headphones, if I had some headphones on, I don't know that I could focus on what I want to say. You know, I might start singing a song and forget what I'm doing, but might good for good bloopers though. You know, maybe I could do something along those lines. Leonard, old country music, thumbs up. Yeah, actually, when I'm at work anymore, I listen to like iHeartRadio or something, and I'll actually occasionally turn on the old country music, and it's got to be old. You know, none of the hip hop, rap, new stuff. I don't like the new country music at all. It's really not. It's not country music. Um, there was a show on PBS. I think Ken Burns did it. You know, if you follow any PBS programming, and it talks about the history of country music, and it's pretty amazing. Some of the people and artists and music that was created back in the 50s and 60s and even into the 70s. But I'm with you on the old country music. I appreciate that. At least I can sit and weld. That's good. You know, if you're in a wheelchair and you can weld, you can do stuff. You can still make money doing stuff like that. So that's good. Robert Boyd, I have a early 65. Well, thank you for thinking I'm awesome. That may be debatable, but I appreciate that. Early 65 code auto with a code auto with dual exhaust. I want to go back original, but the motor is shot and the intake is gone. What's your opinion on the motor? Well, I mean, other than finding another original from that time period, your choices are kind of limited. I don't know when you say it's shot, I don't know what exactly that means, if the block is cracked or if, through a rod or something like that. If you could get it to a shop and get them to tear it down and see if it is salvageable, that's one thing. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to find, a replacement of some sort. Oh, okay. Where are we at? Dave, have you ever had a paint job go really sour on you? Actually, I think I have. I think we had something at the shop years ago that it like crinkled. We had sprayed something, and for whatever reason, there was some sort of, I don't know, but it all crinkled up, in different areas, and ended up having to reshot that thing 2 or 3 times until we finally got it out. I don't know what caused it or why, but yeah, we've had some that have gone really bad. Oh, cheap clear ABC brand. Well, like I said, if it's a cheap clear, they're really only designed to last about a year. I'm just, that's one area I would say, if you're going to use, try to get the best clear you can. It's money well spent. Just put it that way. Sorry, man, lost connection. Did you say you do attend the cruise nights at Summit? I have occasionally gone to the cruise nights. It's been a while. It's hard for me, my regular job, I work 12-hour shifts and on weekends. So that's why I'm able to do these videos here during the week. So it's hard for me to get to Summit to see stuff like that. There's a lot of shows that I miss because I'm busy all weekend. But yeah, I may try to get down there more, so maybe I'll see you there. Yeah, Ken Burns show was excellent. It was a country show. And I bring that up because my wife and I we have a camper set up at a lake over in Alabama. And we have the digital antenna. We can only pick up like 2 or 3 PBS channels. So we watched that show a couple times, or watched a lot of those shows over and over while we were at the lake relaxing. And that was good because we were able to enjoy and focus on what they were showing. But it was a really good show. Yep. Waylon and Porter Wagner. Yep. Patsy Cline, all those. I mean, you can go back and look at all that stuff, and it's really amazing some of the stuff they did. Once upon a time, anyway, anyway, time for bed. Good night and all the best. 11 a.m. Friday morning, we leave the European Union finally. Oh, okay. Well, good. Yeah, Barry's Bluetooth bloopers. That would be. It ain't good, Leonard. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm out of sync on that one. So, um, Dale Strap, any suggestions on what to use for inner structure protection? If you're talking about like the wheel wells and stuff like that, you know, uh, undercoating obviously is going to be a good choice. Um, Probably do the lizard skin. Um, and I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about the wheel wells, you know, that area. And again, depends on where you live. You know, you need tougher stuff up north. So um, if you're talking about inner structure like inner frame, like underneath the sheet metal, then I coat stuff with either Chassis Saver or Pour 15. The frame rails, if everything's exposed, I'll coat all that, let it dry, and then weld it back in. So hope that answers that question. Well, there you go, Robert Adams. Commenting to Robert Boyd, if it's a super early with a 5-bolt bell housing block, I have a rebuilt short block I want to get rid of. Well, there you go. Let's see, Robert, I can see the crank through the oil pan. It was full of water. That doesn't sound good. Contact Robert Adams. Maybe you guys can get together. If he sounds like he has an engine that you could use. Let's see, Brian, could you talk about heat shrinking a high spot during bodywork phase? I could try to talk about that, but I'm not probably the guy you want to have answer that question. I've done it a little bit, but I haven't done enough to be comfortable with it as far as saving a panel. I've seen it done where they heat it up and they use a wet towel, and the process allows it to shrink. But I would love to have more information to share, but I can't give you a solid answer, so I'm not gonna pretend that I know. Tony, I work as an electrician, work on the cars on my free time. Yep. Gary, what part of PA were you from? Was that the location of your family salvage yard? Yes. I'll say I grew up in Somerset County. So if you know where that's at, that's where I grew up. There's some ski resorts up there, Seven Springs, Hidden Valley. Not a lot of anything else. So that's where I grew up, Somerset County. Canadian Marauder, I'm curious if you ever used a 1.2 millimeter spray base or clear, trying to decide on what sizes to get with the new spray gun. I don't know the exact sizes that I've used. I have a spray gun, a DeVilbiss, that I use for clear, but I'm not. Hold on just a second. Yeah, I don't know what the number is. I don't see a number on my DeVilbiss gun. It says the actual size. It's a DeVilbiss K3 number 410. So I don't know what size, but that's what I use. This is what one we had at the body shop, so I've continued to use it. So I don't have an answer for you exactly what size. Sorry. Let's see. Dave, sorry I'm late. I've been watching some basketball on my phone. Well, okay. You're welcome, Dale. Chris, I have a 1966 Mustang for sale. Well, I'm sure there's people looking. You go on Facebook, there's forums where they have those, for sale places and stuff like that. What do we got? Dave, I want to raise my rear end a little bit. What do you recommend? There's different ways to do it, but some people do it with re-arch leaf springs. Some people do it with a shackle extender. Either one works. Your shackle extender, though, it'll expose a little bit behind your valance panel, depending on, you can cut it off. So you can, get a little bit with a shackle extender. Otherwise, you're looking at re-arch springs. The generic way is to use air shocks, but that doesn't really work that well. It just stays up for a while so it bleeds off. But that's about all I can say is recurve springs or shackle extender is probably your simplest way to do it. Leonard, a spot welder works good for shrinking panels, just don't overdo it. Well, again, that's experience talking. I have not I don't even have a spot welder, but I should get one. I've been recommended to get one. Dave Irwin, 5-leaf springs, or five. Oh, sorry, 5-leaf, not 5-leaf, 5-leaf springs. I mean, there's different things, and I'm sure if you kind of Google search it out a little bit, you can find some information on that. Which, a lot of people will typically want to raise, or well, they try to level it out. They'll do different things because, some cars you end up the front sits higher than the back, and they may lower the front a little bit to give the implied look that the rear is higher. There's different ways to do that with different height coil springs, or even I've done it to where on a Jade, I cut off, I think, half or 3/4 of a ring off of the coil to give it a little clearance to get it down. Now, of course, I don't know how high it sat before, but I just did that kind of proactive instead of reactive. Gary, know it well. I used to make deliveries on Route 219. Okay. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with Route 219. If you know, Gary, if you know where McNally Bridge is, do you know where McNally Bridge is? If you do, I'm pretty sure that was named McNally Bridge. McNally Bridge, I got my first speeding ticket in a 62 Galaxie 500 two-door hardtop. First speeding ticket ever at 16 years old on McNally Bridge. So if you know where that's at. Let's see. Keith Sanders, how do you reinforce the front end when you remove shock towers to install independent front suspension? Well, if you look at like reinforce, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. If your frame rails are there, the only structure that supports the frame rails is the aprons. The towers are to support the suspension, and the aprons support basically the car. If you think about it, the towers are just there for the suspension travel, and the frame supports the tower, and then the aprons kind of keep everything from flexing in a way, but it's only attached to the firewall and each other. So, being a unibody structure, it's all about spot welds and things holding it together. If you look at like the Brooklyn Pony, we added Mustangs to Fear frame stiffeners, let's say, basically like roll bar that goes down and attaches to the frame rails. So that might be an option for you. Otherwise, you're looking at some sort of infrastructure, depending on what you're doing, whether it's really needed, I don't know. If you're doing some serious torque and road course stuff, you might want to add some sort of tube structure in there, but that's what I would recommend. Yeah, Dave, level out a Mustang. Yeah, well, that's always been a problem with the way these cars sit, because the rear of the car tends to naturally sit lower. So you can do different things with the front rather than raise the back if you want. Like I said, you can buy different height coils. You can cut a loop out of the coils, and that gives you some clearance and brings it down a little bit. You can also do the Shelby drop, which I think gives it a little bit of a drop, where you relocate the mounting holes for the upper control arm, and that helps it sit down just a little bit as well. Or you can do the opposite, put some bigger leaf springs in the back of the car and get it up a little bit. Heath, thanks for the review on the Black Widow gun. We'll buy one this week. Cool. Put it to good use. Wave, does your new TIG welder do aluminum? It's not set up to do aluminum. I think you can. I think there's something else I need to do different to it. I forget what the requirement was. I think it can do aluminum, but you have to add something or change something. I don't remember what the specifics were. Yep, Robert, Mustangs to Fear has a pipe reinforcement. Yep. It's funny that they did, from what I understand, they modified their kit that they sell because of the video that I did on Brooklyn Pony, which is good. If they can improve their product, good for them. I'm glad that they saw that and were able to use it. Chevy, could I send a picture of what I'm working on to your Facebook or email for advice? I'm working on restoration. Yeah, sure. Yeah, send it to. It's probably easier to send it to. Well, either one. if you want to send to my Facebook page, I think I tend to respond better typically to that. But either one, yeah, send me some pictures. You're welcome, Dave. Hey, Russ. Good to have you here. Robert Adams, my rear sags as well, but the rear of the car can be lifted much easier. Very true. And it's all about what you want. Some people want it. If it's just a matter of changing springs or a shackle, that is a very easy fix. You're right. Some people may want it a little lower to the ground, and then you got to go to the front, start modifying things. But yeah, that's an easy way to do it. Trevor, would you consider a Cody swap in the future on a classic Mustang? Honestly, I haven't looked into it. I have looked into it some, and I don't know that I'm a fan. I mean, it's a cool engine and all that stuff, and I understand the premise of it, but I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Just the way I look at it. I kind of like the classic engine, the way it's laid out, all that sort of thing. I might consider some various other engines at some point, but I have not really looked into, making it happen. It's not on my radar. We'll just put it that way. Let's see. Keith, I've seen the reinforcement rails going from the firewall to shock towers and shock towers. Oh. Well, if you go back to my Brooklyn Pony video and you look up, I don't know which one it is, there's one on there where I actually install those rails, and they go from the firewall straight forward to the front of the frame rail, and then there is an additional bar that goes from right behind where the shock tower would normally be, goes to the underside of the bar, goes down to the torque box, and gets welded in. So it kind of creates somewhat of a triangle effect, also with the piece going to the firewall. So take a look at that video and see if that doesn't give you some help. Need AC to take aluminum, yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I was looking at. Yeah, you're welcome, Chevy. I remember something in the paperwork about this TIG welder that you could do it, but it's going to be tricky. I don't know that I'm going to get into it. So, Chris Reed, do you still have the olds? I think you mean a Buick. I had a 68 Buick Riviera for a long time, and no, it's gone. I got tired of having to move it around and realize that I could not get it done and get it the way I wanted it, and so I put it up for sale and I sold it. So it's gone, unfortunately, but beautiful car. I would have loved to have had it all together and driving, but with all these other projects going on, you have to be realistic. And it took me a while to be realistic with that car because I just love the looks of it. But it's gone, and I have not heard from the guy. I know he was going to fix it up. So it may be sitting in his garage. I don't know. That's one of the things, you do these projects and you start to, be involved with many other things. And, you kind of get that default answer that says, I'm going to fix it up one day. We all hear it. We all know it. But sometimes you also have to be a realist and say, it's not going to happen. So it's gone. Robert Adams, best bang for the buck for dropping engines for early Mustangs is Explorer 302, cheap and plentiful and bolt-in replacement. That's true. Pretty easy to do that. So I've seen plenty of them where people have done that, put in that engine. You're welcome, Keith. What's the Facebook page? Joe Daddy comes up with a lot of pages. If you're spelling it J-O-E, you're spelling it wrong. It's J-O. So if you look up J, just like my YouTube channel, that's my Facebook page. So I haven't tried to type in Joe with an E, so I don't know what comes up. But if you type in J-O, Daddies, you should find it. Yeah, at a lull for questions. So what I'm going to do, I wanted to mention something, and this is just something that came into my mind earlier this week when we were talking about, painting and spraying and stuff like that. I want to tell you a story about a car we did at the body shop. And I may have said this before, I don't remember. But when we had the shop start off in 2005 or so, we were taking on all kinds of projects, just trying to get stuff in. And my buddy, he was more the guy running the show. I was in the background taking care of everything else. And anyway, we had a customer show up one time in a 94, 5, 6 Ford Taurus, the ones that are like just all round and ugly. We remember those cars? Well, this one was not only round and ugly, but it was painted that pale purple. Remember that color? I think they put it on a few different models of cars, but it was like I don't even know what sundust pink or something. It was some horrible color on these cars. Well, anyway, Leonard, no words on a hat just yet. Sorry, I'm getting there. I know I'm slack. I'm really not doing my job on those hats. But anyway, we had this car show up, and it had been hit in the side, and so the doors were mangled. And the insurance company wanted to total the car, and so the people decided they wanted to try to save it instead of having it totaled. And at that time, you could go to a shop and try to negotiate, and the insurance company would cover some of it, and you could get them to pay you some. Well, I was not very good at being the spokesperson for the shop. I kind of said what was on my mind, and I was trying to make a joke. And so I went out to look at this car. I had to give an assessment on it for my opinion as to whether I could fix it. So I'm looking at the car, and the guy's telling me the story, and his wife is there, and whatever. So they're telling us the insurance company's gonna wants to total this car, and without thinking, my first thought immediately out of my mouth said, "It's probably because of the color." And the guy looked at me and he said, "What?" And I had to be real quick and think, and I said, "Well, it's probably because this color is so hard to match." I was just saying it because it's an ugly car, but and he started going at it saying, "I told my wife this was an ugly color when we bought this car." Well, the truth is we fixed the car, and it was impossible to match. So it ended up we tried to paint it and blend the doors, didn't work. Ended up having to. I don't know if we painted the whole car or not. It was terrible. It was it was terrible. But I had to backtrack real quick because I'm like, it's the color. It needs to be totaled. Yeah, Dave. It was funny later, but at that moment it was not. It didn't play off very well. And then I had some other doozies too. And pretty much I was relegated to stay in the shop unless I was really needed, because I tended to just kind of say what I felt or thought. And I think I had a couple other run-ins with some people who got upset with something, and one of those where it was, I think, some well-to-do people who were trying to save some bucks, and I think in one of the situations they paid cash for the job, trying to cut some corners or something, and we did the job that they asked for, and then they came back and said it wasn't good enough. And it was like, well, you got what you paid for, kind of thing. And she was trying to get all mad at me, and eventually I had to step away, and because it was not good. Be careful, he could be listening now. Yeah, he could be, but he knows the truth. It was an ugly car, man. I don't understand it. That Taurus was an ugly car out of the box, and then they threw this ugly purple paint job on top of it. Oh my gosh. I mean, I hated that color. I don't know who would. I don't know. Just horrible. Trevor, if you was to do Jade over again, would you still go to Mustangs Unlimited and the kits you bought, or would you go other routes? No, I would have still gone through Mustangs Unlimited because they were local to me. They're an hour away, or they were, and I would have still done it the same way. You know, I've had gone back over the process a few times in my mind. It's like, had I known that the quarter panels were so wrong and various other pieces, I may have considered turning Jade into a fastback, but it's too late for that. I'm not going to do that. You know, it's a big investment, and the car's too solid to go that route. You know, if I find if I get one that's damaged or something that's going to need all that stuff anyway, I would probably consider doing it, you know, as a conversion, another one. Um, let's see, Brian. Thanks, Barry. I love the fact that you are not afraid to say I don't know. Well, you know, like I said before, there's no value in me making up stuff and lying to you. You know, people come, and I've learned this over the years that people are coming to my channel to gain knowledge, you know, become educated in what they can do themselves and that sort of thing. There's no value in misleading you. You know, there's nothing to gain from that. So, Robert, aircraft mechanics are trained to tell it like it is. That's the truth. You know, it's funny. My job as an aircraft mechanic, I had applied for a position to move forward, you know, be what would you call a lead mechanic, and I had applied for that position, and there were other people that had applied for the position as well, and it came down to, you know, 3 of us getting the final interview or whatever, and so the interview has a complex system for the process. Anyway, so I went through the interview. I was blunt and truthful and gave my, you know, answered the way I was supposed to and everything else. And anyway, I didn't get the position. And in a way, I'm glad, because I really don't want to be a supervisor. I'm more of a worker bee. You know, I like to do things. And if you're a supervisor in that position, you're kind of just typing and taking care of paperwork and solving people's problems. But the reality is, whenever I was told directly that I did not get the position, these were the words: "You are the most qualified for this position, but we're unsure of your people skills." So we're going with this other guy, and the other guy's not as well. I'll just say not as qualified, let's say, as I am for that position. But that was what I got was, "You are the most qualified for this position, but we're unsure of your people skills." Well, the truth is, you know, being in a military background, I'm pretty blunt with a lot of things, and at work I don't play around. You know, I'm going to do it right or not at all. And you know, some people are more talkers and doers, and I think that's part of why this worked out that way. But I'm not. I don't. It doesn't matter. I honestly was trying to see if I could get the position, and after hearing that response, I said, you know what? I'll keep doing what I'm doing and be happy about it. So let's see. Yes, Dave. Yep. Okay. Robert, if I hadn't had to replace everything forward of the firewall, I would have done the fastback kit. Yeah. I still would like to try one. Mark Cooper, the car you had to do with the floor pan, can't remember the project name. Oh, I don't know what that says. iBooks. I don't know what that means. I did the light blue Mustang. I should relabel that somehow. I've actually done 2 full floor pans in coupes. The first one was back in early, well, 2009, 10, somewhere around there, and then the light blue one. But if you look at the playlist, it just says light blue, or 65 Mustang. I think it says light blue in my playlist. Let's see. Leonard, the Taurus NASCAR V8 was awesome. Well, I'll take your word for it, but that rounded off Taurus was just an ugly car. Brian Bergman, some people raise their ears with glue implants. Yeah. Okay. Mark, you're struggling there. Okay, I get it. Um, yeah, Dave Bertrain. Yeah, if you can't do a job right, then don't do it at all. Yeah, that's a good point. Brian Bergman, the new cross member adds the new support. That's true. That independent front suspension, that cross member that gets welded into the frame rails, super strong, super strong. So, um, and Leonard, in Navy, it was my way or the Navy way. Yep. Rick Stevenson, in the aircraft world, you have to do it right. People's lives are at stake. Exactly. And it's, uh, there's, and there's a lot to do with the training and all those sort of things that is for the aircraft industry. I went to school for it. I went to school out in Pittsburgh Institute of Aeronautics. So 21-month course, associate's degree in specialized technology. And, I've used a lot of that knowledge in the career that I have with the airlines. And it's unfortunate at times where there's a shortage of people, it seems like, in the industry now, who have that extensive training. And there's other ways to get your A&P license, but they're hiring people left and right now, because there's a lot of us that were hired in the 90s who are getting close to retirement age, and so they need to replace those. So if you're interested in aircraft maintenance, you might want to look into it as a possible career. I can tell you it's been a great career, and it pays pretty well, and you get flight benefits. So let's see. GM guy, I'm with the FBI. Okay. Let's see. Mark Cooper, the car you started with the floor pan project, where did you get the outer rocker panels? I found them at CJ Parts. I think I can. I think. Can you confirm? Oh, okay. If you're talking about the convertible, all those parts I bought directly at Mustangs Unlimited when they were here in Atlanta. But I will say this: the outer rockers are, the Dynacorn brand, from a lot of people that I've heard from. Now I've got it worked out on the Brooklyn Pony, and it may be that since I'm using their pan and interstructure, that it works out fine. However, I've heard from a lot of people that the Dynacorn panels are too wide at the top, like a lot. I think maybe a half inch, and so they're having to take and cut it down the little gutter where the wiring would sit, and they're having to shorten that up to make it fit the doors. So just be aware of that. And I don't know of any other brands that have them, but just know they're having. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with it, but battery burnout. Pan Am kid here, also XE3 avionics journeyman. Yep. Pan Am. I know some Pan Am guys. Work with them every day. And one guy in our department I think he's 75 years old. Been working on aircraft since before I was born. Yeah. He's got 50 some years with the company, or a combination of companies. So, yeah. Vieira. No, not Vieira. Guy's last name is Russo, if that's what you're asking. Last name, his name is Russo. So, anyway. Oh, I wanted to show you something else, since we're on a kind of a lull at the moment. Don't have any junkyard would be a good place to find classic car parts in Georgia. Unfortunately, no. There was a place down towards Griffin that had some stuff, but I don't know if they're still there. There's on 92, Highway 92, going towards Griffin. It was up on if you're headed into Griffin, it would be up on the left on a hill. I know there was some stuff there, And there was another one that was off of what's the road? I can't remember the name of the road right now. But it's pretty grown over, and I don't know if they're still doing. The guy's name was Hawk. He went by Hawk. Can't remember the name, but it's also a 92. But other than that, I don't really have any references. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Sorry, Robert. How was the thickness of the steel of the outer rockers? Excellent. Thick stuff. Really, I can't quote you the size, what it was, but it was as thick, if not thicker, than the original stuff. So I was good stuff. Heath, weight and balance on airplanes for me. Yep, that's critical. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that, how important it is for weight and balance on an aircraft, whether it's going to be nose heavy or nose light, and that's a very important part of the industry. Yeah, I don't know Vera. Sorry. Yeah, guys went everywhere. Yep. Mark, guess I'm dealing with that problem now. Seem to be all that way. Yeah. Seb, we had an incident. Maintenance forgot to pin the landing gear, fell down, cracked the plane in half at delivery. Yikes. That's not good. Yep. Jeff, to add value to a 68 convertible with a non-stock drivetrain, is adding an Eleanor kit a good idea to increase the value, or is it better to keep it stock? Well, you're going to run into a dividing wall on the Eleanor stuff. Some people love it, and some people hate it. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Eleanor kits. I just not me. I like the stock original, and I think people would rather see a 68 convertible that's original and solid than something that's got a bunch of pieces attached to it. So it's just my opinion, but there's definitely a line drawn in the sand between the Eleanor type vehicles and the stock stuff. So just my opinion. Chris Reed, I had I-85 North Carolina, Georgia, no, NC. I don't know what that, Georgia Mustang junkyard, I think. Oh, well, there you go. There might be a junkyard up on the north side. What I wanted to mention, though, I used that Baxter air file. I've talked about it before, and I've had people mention not a lot of people use air files anymore, but I do. I like them. They do the job that I need. So you've seen it, and I've been happy with that product. I wanted to show you something I bought today. I've been wanting one of these for quite a while. This is the Baxter belt sander, okay? And I've been wanting one of these because, as an example, I've been working on, I did all the add-ons to the Brooklyn Pony in the back, all the infrastructure for the suspension. I did some welds that were on the side, and it was between the frame rail and the drop down for the gas tank, so there's a little gap there. And then beyond that, there's another gap on the other side between the drop off panel and the frame rail. So I welded that, and I ended up with, a blob of weld, let's say, on top. Well, I ended up I was like, man, I don't have a tool that can get up there. And this is going to take care of that. This is going to help me out with a lot of things where I've got to get into a tight space. And the cool thing, this is, you have to tighten this down, obviously, but I might do a video on this. I don't know. What do you think? Should I do a video on this product? Let me know. I need some, but this is going to come in real handy. And I know a lot of people have used these to grind down the tops of welds as well. I usually use a disc grinder, but I've seen people use these. So that's a new product to the inventory. Let's see. Shed box, not that far away from me on the, oh, okay. Okay, you're trying to find the upper dash panels. Okay, all right. Any tips on preventing distortion when butt welding panels? Yes. Take your time. If you've seen some of my videos, there's some on the green Mustang I did years ago. I think some on the light blue Mustang. Even when I did that fender repair on the 68, where I put the patch panel in, I do little welds, little tacks, and work my way back and forth. And I might do every inch weld just a little 1/8 inch tack, step away, let it cool down, and then go between each one of those. Let it cool down. Take your time. People want to get in a hurry when they're welding this stuff, and you start adding a lot of heat, you're just going to cause problems. But if you take your time, you can weld it and fill in all those little spaces, and then I'll get so far and I'll grind it down and find the little holes and weld those in and just keep going until it's smooth and solid. Okay. Paul Olson, I've been buying a lot of parts from Kentucky Mustangs. Seem like really good guys, but not sure if they have original tooling panels. Do you know? I don't know. I have not bought anything from Kentucky Mustang, but again, I haven't bought many parts in a while because I'm still working on the Pony, and I have all the pieces, you know, for that sort of thing. Trevor, Eleanor has been way overdone. Thought about a California Special done. Oh yeah, now California Special, that's a cool looking car. I mean, that'd be another way to go instead of the Eleanor stuff. So consider one of those if you haven't seen it. Robert, I picked up the Chief Long Reach 4-inch cutoff tool, the $100 one, $50 at Sidewalk Sale, and it was very well built. Cool. Okay, so I've got some thumbs up doing videos. Yes. Dave, Barry, you will love that tool. We use it. We used to have one called Dynalite at my old work, and it got tons of use. Good. Out there, or Leonard, with all the Mustang parts out there, and Torino's coming back in popularity, maybe someone will make body parts. Yeah, I know that there's AMD, I think, is starting to, they do some Ford stuff now. I think they were working on a Torino panel quarter or something. I'm pretty sure. So Autometal Direct, I think they're trying to do some stuff with some Ford stuff now. Let's see. GM car guy, 1 tack, 4 beer swigs. Yeah. I wouldn't last long. I'd be out. Brooklyn Pony update. Yep. Well, it's here. It's on the lift, and I've got some videos that I'm going to make on it soon. Yeah, Dave, thumbs up, guys. Throw a thumbs up on the video. Thank you. One of the things I talked about before was the door. You know, when I first started the project, I said I think all I can really save is the door hinges. Well, I did save the door hinges, but there's a little bit of play in those door hinges. So I have a set of pins that I'm going to replace on that, and show. I'm going to do a video. Probably I may do a video this week on those door hinges, and just because, you know, people need to see that stuff. It's all part of the process. So I have the pins, and like I said, I may do that. Let's see. Try auto crafters for classic Ford cars. Well, there you go. Give them a shot. Oh, I forgot to mention. And I'll just do. I'll make a video on this thing and show it. Maybe that'll be my video this week, and I'll show it taking care of those welds on the Pony car. So it's either this or the door hinges. I don't know. I'll figure something out. There's always stuff to do. Put it that way. There's always something to do. Autocrafters is Trevor saying Autocrafters makes for Torinos, Cougars, Mavericks, etc. Yeah, the forgotten brands, right? You know, if you look at the cars, you know, everybody's building, it's focused on Mustang, but the Cougars were great too. In fact, if you've seen, I had Rich from Mustang Connection on here. He did a video on a rare Cougar on his channel. If I remember correctly, it was like a 428 Cobra Jet car with air conditioning, and it might have even been a convertible. I don't remember at this point, but super rare car, and you don't think about those very often. You know, the Mustangs dominate the scene because of their looks and just their name and all, you know, the identification. But, you know, they made Cougars too, and even the Mavericks. You know, Mavericks can't, you can get them with a V8. Had the Grabber series. You know, cool little cars. The Falcons, I love the old Falcons. I think they're sharp. 63, you know, the early ones, really sharp little cars, and just the way they are. But anyway, um, Dave, yeah, good night, Dave. See you. Somebody, Michael's looking for 64 Mercury Comet quarter panel source. Okay. Chevbox. What size welding gas bottle would you recommend for a beginner or hobbyist? I have a MIG gun. Yeah, a 75-25 argon mix. Yes. Now, the bottle that I use, I don't know what the number is. It's about 3 feet tall. And there's a couple reasons I do that. One, it doesn't dominate. You know, I don't get the super tall bottle, which is going to get in my way if I'm trying to get under a car or something. And then the little bottle, I just look at it from economic standpoint. You know, how often do I want to go get that thing refilled? So for me, the 3-foot bottle is the answer. And I have one for my MIG, and I have another straight argon for my TIG welder. But I recommend that, you know, just because it seems to make more sense and last obviously longer than the little bottles. So if you're comfortable with driving back and getting the refill done, if you're doing a lot of welding, that's one thing. But I would get good service out of that, like 3-foot tall bottle. It's like a little over 3 feet. Do I like Eastwood products? You know, I haven't used a lot of Eastwood products, but I've heard great things about them. So I don't have any issue with Eastwood. You know, I can't say anything beyond I've heard good things. You know, I haven't. I probably should research them a little more and try to get some of their products, but I have not. So that's all I can say on that. Trevor always wanted a Maverick Grabber or an RX-7 Cougar Comet. Okay, Autocrafters. Yeah, the Maverick, you know, and what was the, yeah, I'm sorry. They also had the Comet. Yeah. So you had the Mercury Comet and the Ford Maverick. Yeah, they're cool little cars. 1964 Comet is one off. I think so. I don't know for sure. I know they made Comets up into 68, I think. Because I know we had some at the junkyard. We had two that were like, I think 68. Maybe 65 and 6. I don't remember. But they were just like a more squared off Mustang, you know. Same car. Yeah, 125 is best bang for the buck. 60-pound bottle here. Okay, thanks. Leonard, Autocrafters won't sell Torino parts anymore because the stamping is way off. Got one and wound up getting a used one from Desert Valley Auto Parts in Phoenix. Yeah, unfortunately, that's, as I've shown, you run into these problems with these panels. And I looked at a car for a guy a year or so ago. He lives close by, and he was asking me to install a quarter that he had gotten somewhere on his Cougar. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, it's going to take some work. And I gave him a number, and I think he decided he wasn't going to spend it on the car, but I don't know. Let's see. Classic Industries, which was Obsolete Auto Parts, has parts for Torino, Cougar, and many other Ford. Well, there you go. You can look up Classic Industries, see what they have to offer. I don't know that I may have bought something from Classic Industries, but I feel like it was for like a 72 Chevy truck. I think. I don't know. Worked on a lot of stuff over the years. That's one thing I never documented enough of, the early stuff that I did with the 72 Chevy trucks, because man, I cut a lot of those up and refitted all the sheet metal, and you know, I have a lot of information to share on those trucks, but I never filmed anything. I think I have a video on YouTube where it's just a picture sequence, because that's all I was doing at that time, was just taking some pictures. And anyway, I've done a bunch on those trucks. To the top. Hey, Michael. Right of the line, man. 214. Robert, I picked up a few parts from Classic for the 66. They are a half-day drive from here. Wow, that's half day. That's pretty good drive. Yeah, Classic Industries they do offer a lot. In fact, I may have actually gotten some for the 69 Camaro that I did. I think I've talked about that before. I had a 69 Camaro I got from Arizona that was the car everybody wants, in my opinion. It was Hugger orange, black vinyl top, black stripes, cowl induction hood. In fact, in the garage, on the back, if you see my videos, there's a hood hanging on the wall, and that's from that Camaro, because that hood had a little bit of a buckle in it where it got hit, and so I put another hood on it. But I kept that hood because it was perfect, and it's rust free as far as that goes. But I think I bought some parts for the Camaro from that place, and yeah, that car was an automatic, 350 automatic, had drum brakes though, and I sold it. I converted it to disc brakes and put a headliner in it, and I sold it. But now I think it was Classic Industries that I got the parts from for that car. Nobody builds the Mercury Cyclone spoilers. I'm not surprised, because how many Mercury Cyclones do they make? And from an industry standpoint, I think for somebody to produce something, they have to be able to make money at it. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. And so, I don't know how many are still out there or are built and are still remaining, but you're looking at quite an investment probably to make the molds, and then the return on that, you might have to sell them for several $100s a piece just to try to come out ahead. So, Leonard, I watched you fit quarter panels on one of the Mustangs and thought, that's a lot of work. Yeah. It is a lot of work. Yeah, but I still like, to me, sheet metal is my thing. I really love sheet metal because, mess up, weld more metal on, grind it off, make it fit. Let's see, bought many for my 36-ton Ford. Okay, so you bought a lot of stuff from Classic Industries, I assume, Russ? Yeah, okay, that's what you're talking about. 2-ton. Yep, big truck. Let's see. Trevor Foot, 2000, I think. Oh, okay, as far as production numbers. Yeah, see, that's just it. If they built 2,000 Mercury Cyclones, which, my dad had one of those at his junkyard. He had one. It was blue. I remember that car. I remember the name, and I remember seeing it. And also remember one of my dad's friends, sold it for him. And I get the feeling he practically gave it away. But yeah, without limited production, people aren't gonna really gonna want to invest in making parts like that. So again, it's unfortunate. Sometimes the rarity of a car only has value if somebody has a connection to that car. So when somebody says, "Oh, they only made 12 of these, or only made 15 of these," well, that's great. But the drawback is, what are you going to do with that car? It's kind of like the Bullitt Mustang. Okay, that's the only car, right? We talked about this before, and it brought a ton of money at the auction. And people were on one side saying he never should have sold it, and on the other side saying, I can't believe people paid that amount of money. Why didn't he keep it? Back and forth. But the truth is, for the average person, which he is, I've met him. He's a nice guy, Sean. For him to keep that car he can't enjoy it anymore. You know, he has to protect it, keep it safe. Really can't drive it without the risk of somebody hitting it and destroying it, or worse yet, somebody stealing it. I don't know. You know, there's all these variables, but the rarity of a car is only good to certain people. That's why I like the idea of having, you know, you look at how many millions or whatever numbers of Mustangs were made, and there's tons that were six-cylinder cars, and you know, they're all over the place, really. But just that rarity makes it difficult. Only so many Cyclones. There's only so many people that have them or are willing to spend the money to rebuild them, and then what? You know, half the time you're stuck. Paul Olson, I have a '65 convertible Catalina. Have hard time finding parts. I don't have any suggestions for that one. That's another into the rare kind of cars now. You know, they only made so many of them, and how many of them are still around? That's a difficult thing. Robert Adams, you need to make a trip here to go to the Pate swap meet. We usually walk about 8 miles before calling it quits. That sounds like a lot. I don't know where that's at, but it sounds like a huge swap meet. Knew a guy that had 2 Cyclones in his garage in '88. Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's only so many made, but only certain people are going to be really interested in them. And then again, it's that difficulty of, can I even risk driving this thing on the street? You know, it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Let's see, what would be a fair price for both quarters and filler panel installed on 65 Vert? I've gotten a couple very high quotes. Fair price for both quarters and filler panel. You're talking about the filler panel between the quarters and the trunk lid. That's a good question. I mean, without knowing what's underneath the car and exactly how solid it is, you've seen what I've had to do with these panels. I mean, I'm just going to ballpark here because you're looking at probably, and depending on what are you getting done, just hanging the sheet metal, doing all the finish work, putting it in primer. I mean, you're probably looking between $1,500 and $2,500. I just have to ballpark because I don't know. I can't really, without seeing the car and knowing. I don't know what kind of numbers you were given. Hey Barry, guy here, local in Virginia has a Cyclone. Oh, hey Russ. Yeah, I mean, they're out there, but again, they're hard to find, or hard to, because there are only so many made. Octagon Garage was looking at purchasing a 2-post car lift. What brand do you have in your shop, and what has your experience been with it? Well, actually, the one that I have, they don't make them anymore, from what I understand. But mine was made by Auto Lifters. It is for a lower level garage, meaning it has short post, but the cable runs down below. Cable's on the floor instead of up in the overhead. The difficulty with the tall lifts, if you want a cable run, is having clearance. So you have to consider that. There's a variety of brands out there. I can't bring any to the forefront of my mind at the moment. Benpack, I think, makes one. I can't think of the names. But there's also value in how they're used. Like, we had one at the body shop. I can't think of the name. But instead of the post being square, they were angled slightly. And by doing that, you could have shorter arms up front, let's say, and longer arms in the back. So there's different ways to look at it. But this one is Auto Lifters. And I've used it. I've had it in here since, gosh, at least 20 years. Haven't had any issues with it. Installed it myself. And in fact, it was a buddy of mine bought that kit for me because I did a bunch of work on his '69 Corvette, and a bunch of work to that car. And he knew that I would need a lift, so he just bought me the lift. So anyway. Check year one, Paul. There you go. Another year one's good. Another good source. Texas Motor Speedway. Okay. Well, I don't know that I'll ever get there, but sounds interesting. Trevor, I found one here. It's got like 40,000 miles. All there, completely tore apart in a semi van trailer trying to get it. Needs to be saved. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can get it, it's all there. That's another thing. Okay. Somebody needs a time out. Yep. Laura, you went bye-byes. Sorry. Go away, Laura. Not here for that. Not interested. Go waste your time somewhere else. Yeah, asymmetric lift. That's it. Let's see. Andy67. Full lower cowl vent or vent only repair panel, which is more efficient. I'm going to do the full thing. I'd rather have a consistent, solid piece of metal and be done with it than this. I've done it both ways. I've actually done the. I think I have it. Might have pictures on my Facebook page from years ago. One of the first Mustangs I did. I actually cut the cowl panel. I didn't cut the whole top off. I sectioned it, and then I'd replace just the side pieces, and then I pieced it all back together. If you're going to dig into it, just replace the whole thing. Don't. Just my opinion. I don't want to sit there and try to piece things together. It just doesn't work that well. Russ, speaking of rare cars, my dad had a '77 Monza Mirage when I was a kid. I'd love to have them if they were rare. I would have to have one already done. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Yeah, I got rid of whoever this Laura person was. Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I don't even know who this person is, but you know, that's why I try to have moderators as well. Nick was here earlier, and there was other people. So, yeah, I've been warned about that. That I would have people trying to jump in here and do stupid stuff. So, yeah, she's gone. Bye bye. Yeah, these are all kind of. In fact, I'm going to. I'm going to give her a report. Whoever it was, all gone now. So we can get back to the real stuff here. I forgot what we were talking about, but yeah, okay, Russ. Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out again. I mentioned this before. If you haven't check out Mustang Connection One, Rich, his channel. Check out Double R Restorations. He's doing some really cool stuff on these Camaros, and um, if you haven't seen, you think I'm detailed with stuff. Russ is really detailed with his Camaro stuff. He is doing it. Amazing. So check out Russ's channel. And again, if you're here, hey, throw a thumbs up on the video. Help me out. Let this thing get big. Let's see. Andy sounds good. Sometimes what appears quick doesn't work out that way. Yeah, I'm kind of lost now with this other person getting in the way of real talk. Battery burnout planning summer project replacing rear end of 72 Grande. Was rear ended by a nun 20 years ago. Glued it back together. Yeah. Fix it. Make it right. Let's see.
Leonard, what's the best way to make floor pans? That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't know if you're talking about for a certain type of car or like something they don't, obviously if they produce it, I'm going to buy one. Um, Kind of tricky to otherwise, if you're building a custom car, you can get sheet metal and just kind of, depending on what you're doing, do flat panels. But um, I don't have an easy answer for that. I've modified pieces to make floor pans before, but I don't have an easy answer for that. Michael, thanks for your hard work on the videos. It has helped me a ton on my torque boxes and floor pan installs. You're welcome. Might as well share what I have, help people out when I can. You're welcome, Russ. Russ is a good guy. One day I'm going to get there to his shop and do a little walk around with him. Tyler Banks, Ray Channel, Barry, my earlier question got lost in the flow. I was wondering if you discussed which steps you follow to store an engine during a build. What are your thoughts of rust prevention, etc.? Basically, I can tell you this. We had engines sat at the junkyard for years, like 20 years. You could put gas in a battery in them and they'd fire right up. Now, they were sealed up as far as had an air cleaner on them, whatever. Typically, I would say the easiest thing you're going to do to store an engine, pull spark plugs, put some Marble Mystery Oil in there, squirt a little bit in just to help keep the cylinders wet, try to keep them from rusting. Close off any intake ports, if you have carburetor or whatever, try to tape all that stuff up, keep it dry, and then before you go to start it back up, pull the plugs, cycle it through, maybe put a little more Marble Mystery Oil in there to help things move and stay loose. But otherwise, that's just keep it airtight. That's about all you really need to do. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Battery. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. All right. It is now 9:37. I've been on here for 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 32 seconds and counting. I've got 71 viewers on the view right now. I think that's awesome. But I'm hungry. And my wife has made pierogies and kielbasa. Traditional Pennsylvania food. So if you haven't, I don't know if you ever had pierogies before, but I know they're in there and they're waiting for me. So I'm going to have to go get those and get some food in me. I like doing this. I think this is great. I thank all of you for turning out and showing up and asking questions. And, I'm happy to answer stuff. If it helps everybody here, great. As we've seen, I've had people ask questions and I don't have the answer to, and I've had other people jump in and throw answers in there, or searching for a product or something, and I've had people respond, and I think that's great. That's what we need. We need more of that community effort to make this happen and make it grow. All right, I'm getting a lot of, Pennsylvania food, man. Woo! I'm getting a lot of goodbyes and thanks. Again, thank you all for being here. I'll have another video prepped up and probably posted probably Thursday. And then, I have more, I want to mention this. I have more viewers project videos coming. I've done Andrew's 65, Wally's 68 Mustang, and then Greg had his 79 Cortina. And the next video is going to be Jamel from Long Island, New York. And he sent me a video, so that'll be the next one coming up on Sunday. And then after that, I think I have 2 others coming. Christian has sent me one. So if you're interested in having your car shown on my channel, Viewers Projects, send me an email, joedaddysgarage@gmail.com. Again, we'll communicate back and forth, as I mentioned in the videos, and we'll go from there and try to get something put together. So until next time, I think that's going to be it. and we'll do another live next Monday and continue this into the future. So, as I say,